Hi, this is Lauren Kavarik,
Urvashi Sar.
and this is Automating the Monotonous, where we are automating monotonous tasks that we have done repetitively. Our task list is going to be 4 different tasks. First is going to be dividing the name into first and last name. Second will be concatenating the names to make it easier for analysis or a second option. Task 3, we're going to create a pivot table, and then task 4, we'll create a graph off of the pivot table data. Our first subroutine, combining and dividing the names. Dividing the names, we first selected the column of the names, then we used the divide names function in order to divide the names. It pasted them into a different column, created a new column to add the names to, pasted them back into the column, and changed the column headers to last and first names so that we have specific titles to use when we're using the pivot table. If we needed to combine the names, it was a little bit trickier. We used a loop in order to concatenate. So we did a do while so that we could have a do while our rows were until our max number of rows. Then we pasted those or inserted those names into another column, inserted them back into our full table, renamed the title to full name for the use in the pivot table, and then had a little message box to finish it off. What the results look like are, as you see in front of you, divide names and combine names. We'll run through what that looks like at the end of our presentation so that you can see it in action.
So for our second subroutine, we created a pivot table based on our data. So we selected the data in our original worksheet and then added a new worksheet to insert the pivot table into. We indicated the source of the data and created a pivot cache that has all the data for the pivot table to use. And then from that range of data, we added the date field and then executed the count function to count the number of days people attended. And then we grouped the dates by the month and the year to show in the pivot table. We also, on the side, made macros that will expand the sections of the pivot table and also collapse them. So on the left here shows the expanded pivot table, and on the right shows the collapsed version of the pivot table. For our final subroutine, we created a pivot chart based on the pivot table. So we selected the pivot table, added a chart and indicated what type of chart we wanted. We selected a line chart and then also added some different fields to our chart. So we added a title, access titles. Our x-axis was the date and our y-axis was the number of attendances. We deleted the legend that was already there. And then we indicated where on the worksheet we wanted our pivot chart to be. So here is what our worksheet looks like. We have our pivot table on the left and then our pivot chart on the right. So now we're just going to show you our Excel file and run through our macros. All right, so here is our raw data that has been put into a table. And now we're going to divide the full name column. So we have a first and a last name. And now we're going to combine them back together.
One eternity later.
Okay, and then now we'll create our pivot table. So now I will collapse the month field in the pivot table. And now I'll expand it. And our last macro was creating a chart from the pivot table. Yeah, and there you have it, our pivot table and pivot chart. Thank you for
Thank you.
watching our presentation.
Have a good one.